Bitcoin is a perfect learning tool to be accountable. You are learning. I can be in a 100% control of my money and nobody will come to save me if I make a mistake. Poor countries in Africa, they realize that they can bump up economical growth with selling a citizenship as an investment. Who's not using a Bitcoin? It's not a sovereign life because you are always counting on a third party.
Hello, Jan. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's a great honor to talk about freedom and sovereignty with you.
So, what was your personal breaking point that basically made you question the traditional way of life, this like one country, one job, one system model?
That's a pretty good question. It never happened to me, honestly. So I would say I had a pretty good uh, setup and good luck in life. But what was happening? I was having a company that was international, so traveling globally across like 40, 50 jurisdictions. And that was basically everything how it started because my life was in except Antarctica and Australia. So these two continents I've never been to, but all the other continents I already visited, and I was living in a couple of countries. So when you're doing it for a decade or more, then you realize that you can somehow leverage or loophole the system and use certain jurisdictions for your convenience and certain for other conveniences. So yeah, that was the story. I never had it like that opportunity of trying to work as an employee in a company. Yeah, so this was the route and the journey.
A Binance a világ egyik legnagyobb és legismertebb kriptotőzsdéje. Több mint 300 millió regisztrált felhasználóval világszerte. Itt valóban mindent egy helyen intézhetsz. Aktívan kereskedhetsz, stékelhetsz a Binance Earn keretében passzív jutalomért, és részt vehetsz új projektek token kibocsátásában a Launchpaden. Ha már nagyon pró vagy, akár tőkeáttétellel is kereskedhetsz, sőt, automatizálhatod is a kereskedést. A podcast leírásában megtalálod a regisztrációs linkünket. Ha azon keresztül regisztrálsz, akkor 20% kedvezményt kapsz a kereskedési díjakból. Neked nem kerül pluszba, de ezzel támogatsz minket, hogy még több hasznos kriptos tartalmat készíthessünk. Where are you originally from, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm originally from Czech Republic, so you might know Prague as a capital. And yeah, everything was happening basically from Czech Republic, and later on, like I said, due to the entrepreneurship and running a business, it scaled up globally, and from the global lifestyle, everything started to like put couple of dots together and trying to solve the complicated puzzle or global puzzle, and taking the best from each jurisdictions if you can.
Can you tell me about is this company related in any way to Bitcoin, or can you tell me a little bit more about that too?
Yeah, obviously, like Bitcoin was probably the like for many people, it was like the first rabbit hole, right? So something new on the market, and everybody has own story. Everybody has like a story, like ignoring Bitcoin or maybe jumping into like too early into Bitcoin. Like everyone can share their experience and thoughts. For me, obviously, it was not the way how to get rich, but it was about like living a global lifestyle. It is a mean of exchange. So like I give you one example. If you want to send fiat transfer, bank transfer from Europe to Latin America, it's impossible. It's gonna take various days. They are gonna need all the details, and the probability it's gonna arrive, it's pretty low. So Bitcoin was like kind of a solution to that. Obviously, you need to find a counterparty who can accept Bitcoin, but let's put it this way, in 10 minutes everything's settled, everything's done. I don't have to wait if the bank's going to ask me more details or information. So yeah, means of exchange globally, if you're dealing with Africa, if you're dealing with Latin America, it simplifies everything, and also it eliminates the trust of the counterparty. You don't have to trust the counterparty. You know that if it's settled, it's settled. So there are no chargebacks, no options like in fiat standard banking. So yeah, it was step number one for me. And later on, yeah, you learn more and more details because it is so interesting and never ending. So yeah, I'm really into and love privacy on Bitcoin. So for example, this is the topic I like to talk about. But yeah, obviously Bitcoin is in the game and has a certain part in a sovereignty life, that's for sure.
So can you tell me, like, how would you describe sovereignty in general as a lifestyle? Or what do you
I
mean by
think,
sovereignty?
yeah, that I would like to say that it's kind of like a combination of freedom, but accountability. So you have to be accountable for what you're doing, also being able to being accountable for mistakes you're doing. So you are 100% reliable and in control of all your outputs. So you don't expect that somebody's going to help you. Now you are on your own, and you have everything under your own control. So okay, do I want to have a Monday as a free day? Yeah, it is possible, but I have to also be accountable. And for example, if there's a work I have to do, yeah, maybe it's 11 p.m. I'm sleepy, but I have to do it. So you need to be responsible for your life, but you are also able to plan everything like according your wishes. So that's why you can leverage different jurisdictions with what they can offer to your life. You are more, I would say, you got a better global mobility. So you can decide if you're going to live in Asia or if you're going to live in other side of the globe in Latin America, how often you're going to travel. So you're living under your own rules, but that responsibility is upon you.
Mhm. So, yeah, I mean, definitely self-sovereignty comes with both responsibility and freedom at the same time, especially if we just talked about Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your coins. If you lose your keys, you lose your coins as well. So that's uh,
Exactly.
that's a burden that you need to make sure to calculate into the risk that you are taking. So could you please like tell me like the practical ways of seeing sovereignty as well, apart from being responsible and yeah, I will let you
Yeah.
talk.
Okay. First of all, I would like to add to the Bitcoin part you mentioned right now, your keys, your coins. Okay, not your keys, not your cheese. That applies all the time. So you mentioned that if you are not control of your keys, you trust some counterparty, and I think that Bitcoin is a perfect learning tool to be accountable, because like with that financial sovereignty you are learning, okay, I can be in a 100% control of my money, but I need to understand what I'm doing, and nobody will come to save me if I make a mistake. So it puts a lot of, I would say, like responsibility or pressure maybe in the beginning on a human being, but you're getting more and more comfortable with, okay, it's in my hands. I cannot solve it with a third party, and I cannot ask any permission, and I cannot ask any help. So Bitcoin, I would say, is a good opening door to the sovereignty life. And Bitcoin is about like sovereignty financial life. And now you're asking what is the next? And the next is what I perceive it at least as, we're human beings, we are physical, we have to live in a physical life and not only in a digital aspect. And that physical part got some constraints. So you need to breathe, drink, eat, sleep, be in some place. You're a physical human being. So we like to call it as a flag theory. So the point of flag theory is that you can distribute in your assets, I would say, or your aspects of your life into different jurisdictions across the globe. And obviously, in these days, the world is more volatile, it's changing quickly and rapidly. So I'm not saying, or I don't even want to say, like, what jurisdictions are the best, because it can be different in a year from right now. But imagine something like that you live in a country where you want to live. So, for example, you say, I like beach and I like to be in Asia, or I like to be in Latin America. So you select a country where you would like to live. Second thing, so you then, okay, do I have a kind of like a contingency plan? If something goes wrong, can I go as a fallback option? So where can I go if shit hits the fan? Okay, so you are trying to find a residence permit in a country where it's not difficult to maintain that residency. We oftentimes call it, you probably heard that, like a plan B if something goes wrong. So that is the residency aspect. It's kind of cheap, it's kind of simple to maintain. You just need to select the right jurisdiction. On top of it, you can think about, like, where do you have your nationality, your citizenship. So citizenship oftentimes is represented by passport. So people oftentimes imagine passport when we talk about citizenship. It's not a passport itself only, but it's a travel document that you show to the flight attendant or to the airlines when you're traveling. And it's good to have it in a different country. So now you're trying to build like kind of complicated chess game and trying to solve where or what kind of two, maybe three citizenship across the globe might well fit together, to not put a lot of burden on yourself, but to just bring you mostly the benefits and accessibility and global mobility with your lifestyle. When you got this solved, another flag is like, okay, how am I gonna solve a financial sovereignty? So there comes in play a Bitcoin. There also comes in a play that a lot of people are still reliant on a banking system. So being banked in another jurisdiction than where you live, or where you have a citizenship, or where you have a residency, is a good option. So you're gonna be banking in fourth or fifth country. And again, you need to evaluate all the risks and all the pros, but you don't want to put all the eggs into one basket. So that's why you are diversifying. And then we can talk about assets. And you say, look, I got assets, even digital assets or physical assets. How am I going to protect those assets? And you can build up, for example, a foundation in a certain jurisdiction. And that foundation is going to cover your assets, and it will be like a jurisdictional arbitrage of not owning assets as a physical person, but it can be like another entity. So that's another option. So like that, you are around like 7, maybe 8 jurisdictions across the globe that you can selectively pick and decentralize your life. And when you do that and one thing goes wrong, so you are not failing in total, just that one leg is going to fail, but all the other 7 are going to survive. So that's why you are more resilient in the life. And then when let's compare it with a normal person. Normal person is probably having everything in one jurisdiction, where they live, where they were born, they are banking in that country, they are working in that country, they got assets in the country, they are reliant on the one country. When something goes wrong, the whole life is like on zero. But with that diversification, yeah, you maybe drop to 90% from 100 because something went wrong in one jurisdiction, but the rest of your life is not affected at all. So that's kind of the approach what we're talking about.
So, for example, I'm Hungarian. I currently live in Hungary. what are the first steps that I should take? Okay, I like the beach. Shall I go move to Spain as a resident, or I saw that you recommend Paraguay on Hackinglives, so maybe that could be as well an option. But that's kind of far away. If I need to come home to my family, that's also um, probably like a longer route. So, what are like the eight different jurisdictions that you would recommend in general?
Okay, let me start a little bit from the other way. You mentioned really important point that nobody's like putting enough emphasis on, and this is like where you want to live. It's kind of important because like it makes no sense to be living in the country where you hate it. So from long-term perspective, I believe that you want to be in a country where you feel comfortable. I don't know, culturally you feel fine. Maybe like you like people, you like the how the economy works, and there are big differences because you will have people that love living in Latin America because of a kind of like an easier life, but a little bit messy in terms of that. Not everything is like in Switzerland. Forget about it. But then you got your exact opposite, and there are people that they love living in Dubai and Emirates, and I often experience that who loves Emirates hates Latin America, and who loves Latin America hates Emirates because like these lifestyles are totally opposite. In Emirates, you seek for luxury, connection, maybe higher chances to build network effect and networking with other people. In Latin America, you like search more for that freedom, peace, uh, more laid back, I would say, surroundings. So this is important step, like you mentioned. Okay, where? No, it depends on your heart and also depends on your brain where you want to be. Spain, for example, you mentioned, is not bad, but you need to play the game of not spending the majority of year in Spain, because with that you can, as a citizen of Hungary and being in the European Union, you are able to be in Spain without any visa, but you don't want to trigger their tax policy. So, for example, not becoming a tax resident in Spain, because to getting rid of the Hacienda Tributaria in Spain, which is the tax office, it's really complicated. So maybe you will be like, okay, I will be living in Spain 3-4 months a year, and then I'm gonna move, I don't know, to Thailand because I like it there, and then I'm gonna be in Hungary for a month or so because I love to visit my family and my relatives. So you can plan to be maybe living in 2-3 places, and with that you are not, for example, you are not going to trigger a tax offices across the globe, and you can also benefit from a tax residence, because in that case you might want to select your own tax resident that is beneficial for you. So that would be like step number one. And then you mentioned some, for example, Paraguay, that is lately popular, but I would say in 90% it's a vehicle, kind of like a vehicle for a lot of nomads to have a residency as a plan B. Like, hey, if something goes wrong, I can have Paraguay as a fallback and go back to Paraguay anytime I have to. And second thing is that Paraguay is really beneficial from the tax residence perspective, because you can voluntarily sign up at the tax office, and if you're not triggering any other tax office across the globe, yeah, you can be a tax resident in Paraguay. So a lot of people that live a little bit in Brazil and a little bit in Europe and a little bit in Asia, and kind of like I said, live in 2-3 places, yeah, they can freely select a tax residence in Paraguay, and that is beneficial for them because they can earn money and they can keep what they are earning.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, that could work because the only thing I've been to Dubai many times, and the only thing I would move there for is the 0% tax. But honestly, I couldn't live there. that's not my style of life. That's very like a sanitized environment. So it's really not something I would want to pursue. But for example, Latin America in general, yeah, I do like Latin America a lot. And that's why I thought like maybe Spain or Malta could be a good option here in Europe if I want to stay close to my family and just jump on a plane and be home in 2-3 hours if it's
Yeah,
needed.
exactly. You can be jumping around within, let's say, couple of jurisdiction in Europe, like south of Spain, maybe. Then you can, you can go to Portugal. Uh, Another option is Canarian Islands. That's also like four hours from Europe. Uh, these are options, and obviously the benefit maybe for a lot of people is that the infrastructure is really like European. This is what you get used to in Europe, and you keep the same, I would say, or similar level of life, because Europe is kind of like a steady in that what you got in Hungary, there will be no big difference in Spain. With Latin America, there are different changes. So you need to expect that, for example, not everything is 100%. Probably everything is like, Pareto rule 80-20. So something works 80%, but those 20% it doesn't work at all. So you have to make more compromises. On the other hand, it's giving you a lot of freedom in some countries, because sometimes there are not even regulations existent, or if they are not being enforced at all, because nobody's enforcing some regulations or some laws. So they can exist in theory. In praxis, a lot of times they don't exist. So it gives you like a more freedom of like I oftentimes trying to compare it like with the year 1989, when the communism fell, and everything changed from communism to first like steps in capitalism in Central Europe. And those 90s were a little bit messy and tricky, and there were a lot of opportunities in that period. And it feels really similar in Latin America, like that. Like a lot of opportunities, a lot of options to start a new startup, new idea, make it better, because there are huge options to make improvement, but with that messiness a little bit. So yeah, you have to be more kind of okay that something's not going to work, and you can basically change it. So yeah, it's always about pros and cons everywhere.
So can you tell me a bit about like what are like the biggest mistakes that people do when they are choosing their um, residency or like tax strategy?
Yeah, look, I would say the number one mistake is like misconception or misunderstanding that it's not about only one country, but always it's about two countries. So you are in Hungary, you want to move like from the tax perspective out of Hungary. So you are finding another jurisdiction, but it's not about that jurisdiction. It's about like, okay, what is happening in Hungary, and what is happening, let's say, in Paraguay. Okay. So you can solve Paraguay easily, like that. But the question is, have you solved everything from the tax perspective in Hungary? So if not, then you're still tax resident in Hungary, no matter if you selected our tax residence in Paraguay. So now you might be a tax resident in two countries, two jurisdictions. So the main mistake is like thinking that if I sign up on a new tax office, it automatically is canceling a tax obligations from the country I came from. So it's not like that. So you need to do a certain steps and not fulfill like certain steps to become a tax resident, let's say in a Hungary. So you need to leave the country, not living the majority of the time, not doing a business, for example, in the country. There are certain steps that you need to fulfill, and then yes, you can select a new tax residence. But till that time, it's not like just like flipping the finger. It's not working this way. So I would say this is the hardest or most oftentimes misconception in a tax residency.
That like people forget about, that they need to kind of like leave their tax residency, or they forget to inform the government that they are no longer wish to be residents in their origin country.
Yeah, one option depends on the jurisdictions, because like within Europe there are a couple of countries that they are kind of okay and they are not making problems, let's put it this way. On the other hand, there are other jurisdictions that they are really like difficult, and they don't want to lose their tax residence. So Spain is complicated. Greece is doing a big troubles in general.
Oh
So they
no.
are certain jurisdictions that they really like, hey, okay, so we need to see your certificate of tax residency from another country. They want to see all the documents apostilled, for example. And on the other hand, then you can find jurisdictions like, example is, for example, Czech Republic, that is not that complicated. You are not fulfilling certain laws or certain steps in a law, and yeah, you can leave from the tax system. But it really depends on a country. I cannot generalize like where it's simple, where it's difficult. It depends on the jurisdiction.
Yeah, it seems like the countries that are like kind of like the countries that I would want to move to, because I really like Spain and Greece in general. Then they're both
Yeah,
like
it's a
they
hell
want to
right
keep
now.
it.
It's a nightmare. Yeah, it's a tax nightmare. And I have friends from Spain and I have friends from Greece, and both of those guys living or coming from those countries, it's hell to get out of the tax system. And I would even say that I don't see a positive trajectory in that line in Europe, because UK is pushing forward like taxes, and they want to apply kind of like an exit tax for high net worth individuals. Now Netherlands, they approved non-realized capital gains tax, so it means like when you're gonna have like, I don't know, stocks, and you're gonna be up to whatever 40-50%, you're going to be paying tax from not realized gains, which is totally stupid. Norway, they were pushing like exit tax for high net worth individuals. France is talking about the citizenship based taxation, so that you would be based tax on your citizenship and not a residency. uh, so unfortunately, it's not looking positive in European Union from that perspective. And I think, yeah, it's about to have a plan B, because it's hard to predict what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years.
Mhm. So you are saying that basically, if you want to decentralize your residency in general, you want to have your plan Bs in motion, then you need to act kind of in the next couple of years. Otherwise, like the window is closing to this opportunity for Europeans.
Like, okay, I don't want to say A or B, because I don't have a crystal ball. That's
Yeah, for sure.
and I hate making predictions, because like I know I'm always going to be wrong.
Hmm.
What I can say is that the good thing is that even countries and jurisdictions are, it's a game theory, the same like we talking in Bitcoin. And okay, if one state starts with Bitcoin reserve or whatever it is, and maybe you don't even like it, or you like it, I don't care about your opinion, but it's kind of game theory in praxis. So they are like, hey, here we got a us started something, okay, so we are another country, we should do it too, because we are going to be too late. And with the jurisdictions, it is kind of similar with residencies or citizenships. So if you crumbling down on, let's say, I don't know if you're aware of citizenship by investment. It's kind of like a specific type of programs that you can spend certain amount of money, and for that investment, you are eligible to get a citizenship. But there are just the various places. Not every country is open to citizenship by investment. And for example, in the Caribbean, there are 5, 6 different islands that they are selling their own citizenships. But what happened was that European Union started to put a pressure on those tiny islands that they need to ramp up the price for citizenship. Otherwise, they're going to take away a visa-free access to European Union. So what happened? Happened that those islands, they ramped up the prices like 100% up, because losing a visa-free access to Europe would be pretty big downside. Why I'm talking about it? Because game theory applies. Like when you start to limiting options in a one place of the globe, there always are different jurisdictions that they are coming up with a new plans, because they are like, hey, here's the opportunity. They are closing down the doors, or they want to limit the migration. They don't want to be opened. So on the other side of the globe, there will be different jurisdictions coming like, let's use it, because there are still people willing to pay us, for example, to get something. So we are going to open it. So it can work 5 years, and then they decide to close down the migration. We don't want it anymore, but you are going to have a popping up another jurisdiction in another part of the globe again with a different program. So I would not be that skeptical that it's going to go like everything down and there will be no option at all. On the other hand, there will be certain jurisdictions, like right now, Latin America, I would even say, is overhyped. And that might have an influence, because they will be like, just giving you a number, migration to Paraguay in 2025, like last year, was 100% higher compared to 2024. So it was 100% more people migrating into the country, like year over year. So that is pretty substantial number. And it's hard to think how long that trend can sustain it, because maybe government can come in a 3-5 years and say, look, too much migration, okay, we can't deal with that, okay, we're going to change conditions. This can happen anytime, and it's not any fear mongering. I don't think it's going to happen, honestly, like on my personal thought, but it is possibility, and it's important to think about those possibilities.
Hmm. So you say that like which other regions are becoming more attractive, and which ones are? So you say that Paraguay and Latin America is probably gonna be risky to move in a couple of years, but there is like a huge opportunity to actually mitigate your taxes there, or like have an advantage on the tax system. Is there any other region in the world that you would recommend moving into in terms of taxes,
Okay.
especially on?
Yeah, in terms of taxes, yeah, like it's hard to compare anything from tax perspective, I mean, right now, and not calculating any other things, because from tax perspective only, I think it's hard to compete with Paraguay, honestly, because the way it works, it puts almost zero requirements on you as a person. So people that live in, I don't know, Costa Rica and Honduras and Buenos Aires in Argentina, and traveling there, and like we talked, 3 months there, 3 months somewhere else, and so on. Okay, so that they are using tax residency in Paraguay as their benefit, and the only requirement, like to maintain the tax residency, is maintaining the physical residency. And to make it happen, it means that if you're permanent resident, you need to be in Paraguay once a 3 years. So in 3 years, you need to come to Paraguay. If you're temporary resident, it's more often in the beginning. But when you already get that permanent residency, I mean, like you don't have to be 3 years in Paraguay and you are still a resident. And there's no other comparison with those requirements anywhere in the world. because oftentimes there is a requirement like, hey, every year you have to step in the country, or you have to live in the country more than 6 months to be able to become a tax resident. So like that, for example, Uruguay is working. So it's harder to, and I think it's impossible to find a better place for a tax residency when you want to be free and have a pay zero taxes and not being in Paraguay every single year or every 6 months, or yeah, like I said, every 3 years. It's kind of okay. So yeah, it gives you a lot of freedom for no requirements to do whatsoever.
So, is there any other regions that are also as attractive like that? So, is there any place in, for example, Africa that we could think of? Because that's also like an emerging market or like an emerging area of the globe, where there are like not so much regulations, but at the same time, there are like huge opportunities to use.
Look, I think for something like Panama's great. I So it depends. Like for example, for asset protection, Panama is a great jurisdiction because you can build up, because it's not everything about the tax residency. It's more about like, okay, what kind of structure I can build, because the protection doesn't come from tax residency in one country. The protection comes from building a structure, how you can structure your life and what kind of layers you have in that structure. And Panama has a certain play, I would say, in that structure, but not necessarily from residency perspective, in my opinion. But banking is not bad, for example, in Panama. Banking in Panama is kind of okay. It's a good offshore location. They are crypto friendly. So also if you deal with fiat and a crypto, you can find a Panamanian banks that they are open to crypto. So that is definitely better than, for example, in Paraguay, where banking is, I would say, really, really far behind and really complicated and overregulated. In terms of Africa, I hardly can see anything there that would be so interesting. What is popping up in Africa right now are citizenships. So poor countries in Africa, they realize that they can bump up economical GDP and growth with selling a citizenship as an investment. So, for example, one popular lately became San Tome and Principe. It's an island close to Africa with really low population, and they are around $100,000 for a citizenship. So citizenships are at least $100,000 plus. Residencies are like nothing. It's just only $1,000 generally. So to see the difference, residence permit is pretty cheap to get. Citizenships are pretty expensive to get. And one of the cheapest citizenship is Santo Tomé and Principe in Africa. Another one I think now is popping up is Sierra Leone, which again you can invest, I don't know what, around 40, maybe more, 60K. I'm not so sure because it's not my interest in Africa, honestly, but it's popping up. I heard about Botswana. Botswana is thinking about launching citizenship by investment. Again, probably around 100K mark, I would say. So making it like more accessible to people. But the big question is, okay, what that citizenship can offer to you for your life to leverage it. So I mean, it's not going to be probably like visa free travel because African passports are not that good. Okay. Uh, is it an embassy assistance like that you can, if you are in problems, you can get assistance from the embassy? With African countries, I would say it's going to be pretty limited. So really depends if your business endeavors going to be in Africa, so, and maybe Central Africa. I believe that citizenship in Africa, for example, Sierra Leone or something, might have a sense because like you will have access to whole Central Africa, other countries. But other than that, I think it's not that like kind of banger to have a global lifestyle with a African citizenship, and I cannot see a good banking there. I cannot see a good residency permit there. Yeah, so it's pretty limited, at least for now, I would say.
Yeah, so basically in Hungary you can have multiple citizenships as well, not just two. So maybe it could be in like an option as well to have like a citizenship here in Hungary, have your passport, your Hungarian passport, and then possibly have a citizenship somewhere in Asia as well, or like in some other country, which makes it easier for you to travel around in the area where you would like to live, right? So
Yeah, like let me add some kind of for listeners to a little bit understand. Many times my experience is that people are mixing up together two things, and it's a residence permit and it's a citizenship. These two things are like different sports. Okay, it's like doing a hockey and I don't know, and swimming. Okay, swimming is totally different sport than playing ice hockey. So with a residence permit, it's simple, and you can have a multiple, and you I don't know if it makes sense for you, and if you are going to be having 3 or 4 resident permit across the globe, and you can maintain them in terms of like fulfilling all the requirements, why not? It's not going to ruin you in that matter. With a citizenship, it's a little bit more tricky, because you also need to know the constitution, because with getting another citizenship, so you are becoming a dual or triple citizen, and in that case you have to respect our laws and regulations that is like a burden upon you from a new jurisdiction. So there it really is important to know what you're getting into. They are great another citizenships, but it also, like I said, with taxes, it's about two countries, and you got a country of tax residence where you want to be versus where you are right now. The same is with a citizenship. So you have Hungarian citizenship, and you need to find another one that is like in benefit together and not a burden. So not all citizenships are always going to work as a multiplier. Sometimes it's going to create more problems, and you need to know what you're doing. And for example, some citizenships cannot be even relinquished. So when you are becoming a example, a citizen of Argentina, so you cannot relinquish Argentinian citizenship. That's a problem. So theoretically, in the future, you would say, I don't want to be Argentinian anymore, but you cannot. You cannot get rid of it. So that's why, for example, taking those steps are having a huge impact on your life. And you should think twice before taking any action. So with citizenship, I would say it's take your time. You need to get there, and I personally would start with residencies because they are not implying so much regulations on you. And if you getting comfortable with residence permits, then you might be okay, now I'm gonna pursue a citizenship because it makes sense in my lifestyle. So I would probably take it as a step number 2.
A Pécs Bitcoin egy svájci alapítású, magyar nyelven is teljesen elérhető peer-to-peer piactér, ami összehozza a bitcoint eladni vagy venni szándékozó embereket. A folyamat nagyon egyszerű és biztonságos. Létrehozod egy ajánlatot, a bitcoinod letétbe kerül, a másik fél átutalja neked a pénzt, majd miután igazolta a fizetést, a bitcoin automatikusan a tárcájába kerül. És a legjobb benne, hogy a regisztrációhoz elég egy e-mail cím, így magasabb védelmet kapnak a személyes adataid. Ha közvetlenül másoktól vennél vagy adnál el bitcoint euróért vagy forintért, biztonságosan, akkor érdemes lehet kipróbálnod. A linket a leírásban találod.
you probably live this lifestyle, right? So you are moving around in the world, and then you have a couple of like different spots that you stay for a couple of months in order to make sure that your residencies are up to date. How does this lifestyle look emotionally? Because basically you must be always on the road.
Um, you got options, honestly, and in my age, I already got into like a different phase before. Like I told you in the beginning when we started to talk, my life was crazy. It was like traveling for more than 10 years everywhere. And yeah, there was the crazy lifestyle you were now mentioning. And I was losing a track of time. I was losing a track of where I am at and where I am waking up, honestly. So sometimes it even happened to me that I didn't know where I woke up, like what country I am in. Now it's totally opposite, and I call it like more like a small, like a slow traveling. So you set up couple of bases across the globe, and you are in that jurisdiction for a longer period of time. And if you want to move, you take it as like kind of, like a home spot. And from that, you can go to another country, but you are always returning home where you got all your stuff, where you got your clothes. You don't have to live like all the time in a suitcase. So changing it for, like I said, two, maybe three locations across the globe, and having it as a where I can go back is good, because like you feel at home. So not maybe like somebody has just one home and all life living in a one apartment or in a one house. The difference is that you can maybe say, okay, I got two or three, but still it's you mentally processing it. It's your house. Okay, when I go back, I know I got their bed sheets that I want. I got a bed I want to sleep in. I got a, I don't know what, espresso machine in the kitchen. So you're returning back home, and that slow traveling from that mental perspective, it's great. But maybe in 20s I would be quickly traveling like I did. And I understand everyone who's 20 years old to be like, okay, I want to be 3 weeks in Brazil and 3 weeks in Colombia. uh Me in my age, I already enjoying like I'm not going to be 3 weeks there, but I'm going to be 3 months there. Okay.
When you do this like slow traveling as well, I don't know if you have kids, but is it like easy to maintain this kind of lifestyle with like a family?
It is possible, yes. And yeah, I can 100% confirm it is possible. The only thing is like when you're getting to age, like school age, then you have to a little bit decide like how you're going to approach it as a family. So option one is that you are going to be dealing with some kind of homeschooling, which is challenging in certain things, honestly. Or you are gonna, for a certain period of time, you're gonna settle and find a good local school or community where you're gonna be predominantly settled later on. Because like with that school age, it's changing a lot of things. And the most challenging part in that is later on, like the social environment. So everybody needs some social circles and build up the trust with kind of friends or better friends, or and this is not my friend, and learning like this social skill set. And yeah, for that, I think to be a longer time on a one place is definitely better for from the kids perspectives and sake. Till what, 7 8 years old of their age, yeah, you are basically free, because like kindergarten, it's not mandatory mostly. You can solve it, and they are not learning there anything. So it's more about like the decision when they're becoming 8-ish years old. So okay, how you gonna approach the education line? And that is a question that everybody has to answer, and I'm not here to answer that question.
Okay. Do you have anything like you must have worked with multiple people that needed your help to execute their plan B? Do you have like, or do you know one trait that they have in common that makes them choose this lifestyle, or people who succeed in this kind of environment in the execution of like holding down multiple, not citizenships, but residencies, and then those people who are mostly like not comfortable with this kind of life?
Okay, I would say it's kind of simple to explain this kind of life to Bitcoiner, because Bitcoiners are solving similar problems. I would say all Bitcoiners. So it doesn't matter where you meet. If you meet in Hungary or BTC Prague in Prague, and there are thousands of Bitcoiners, or you are in the US on a meetup, or in Latin America, we kind of solve like I would say Bitcoiners are kind of like a preppers, not in terms that not in terms that you got I don't know, shelf full of guns and corn in your house, just to in case that something really bad happens, but more like preppers in terms of, okay, I'm not going to play one card, I am not going to trust that system or another system, I'm just rather going to decentralize. And that's why all that kind of thinking process of having bits there and there across the globe is more familiar for Bitcoiners, because they are like, okay, I heard it somewhere already. And this is more like just in a physical aspect of my life. And okay, I probably with Bitcoin solve my financial sovereignty, that meaning that, okay, I can take billions across the globe just with 12 words. So that's settled. But okay, what I'm gonna do if I cannot use that money? Let's say, okay, the country is gonna become a dictatorship, and everything's gonna be nothing's gonna be possible to purchase on the market. So it's nice to have a money, but when you cannot use the money, it's a problem. So explaining to Bitcoiners plan B and contingency plans, it's good, and they understand also like more of the like OPSEC and operational security, and what to do and what not to do. Another group that is leaning into understanding that it are like high net worth individuals, that they already, for example, get certain amount of money, they feel kind of like comfortable that they already can support the whole family, and they are like, okay, I got 2 kids, I got 3 kids, I got 4 kids. What if happens something in Canada, in US, in European Union? Do I have option to pack my kids and take them somewhere else? And that starts like, probably I should solve it. I don't have the opportunity to do it only as a tourist, which is not good enough, I would say. So they solve it. Who doesn't solve it is people that are struggling with kind of like a freedom and accountability. I would say it's a long process. So you need to, in your head, start being responsible. And again, we are getting back to Bitcoin. Who understood Bitcoin, I believe, is oftentimes more prone to understand these contingency plans. And who is still like in the beginning of how Bitcoin works needs time to understand the responsibility, because that responsibility that's Bitcoin putting on your shoulders is tremendous. And you need to be really clear about what you're doing, and what is the, I don't know, pin code, and what is the seed phrase, and what is the passphrase, and if I lose one, can I restore it or not, and what are the conditions, and when yes and when no, and so on. So that is a good, I would say, learning curve, and later on go into those physical aspects of life.
And do you think that like Bitcoin in general is like a financial hedge against like these things in your model, or it's like the foundational piece that one needs to use or should use in general?
I see it as a foundational piece, honestly. Like it's not easy in 2026 to move money across the globe. It's really limited. If you send yourself I don't know, a bank transfer, or and it doesn't matter. There are stories like new fintech banks are coming on the market. You send 50K to your bank account in another bank. They're red flagging it because it's a weird behavior, or asking you where you get that money, how you can obtain them where, and is it from a job or you inherited that or whatever it is. So Bitcoin is basically that Bitcoin doesn't ask. So I see it as a totally fundamental thing, how to move money across the globe, because you don't have to ask anyone if I can access my money tomorrow, which probably in a bank might happen that no, you cannot. Like, hey, we are making you unbanked, and then you are like, but that's my money. Oh, we don't care because they are your custodians. So for me, it's definitely one of the part of being sovereign. And who's not using a Bitcoin, it's not a sovereign life, because you are always counting on a third party. Okay, obviously, if you got everything in cash, like I don't know, Pablo Escobar had, so you are sovereign, but it's hard to move cash, honestly. So Bitcoin, really difficult to be thinking, and especially, I don't want to paint something dark or black right now, but if again shit hits the fan, something gonna go wrong, you're not gonna have options to where can I access my money, but Bitcoin is like working 24/7, 24/7, and it's gonna be TikTok, block, TikTok, block. So you can everywhere in the world, even though you don't know anyone, you can go to, I don't know, beer. You can join a local groups. You can ask like, hey, where can I swap Bitcoin into local fiat currency? And I assure you, like within one day, you always find someone, and you don't even have to do it through like centralized exchanges and so on. You always, and it doesn't matter if it's going to be Thailand or you're going to be in China or you're going to be in Latin America. You're always going to find someone who's going to swap, for example, Bitcoin into a fiat currency if you have to.
So if we are already talking about cash, like realistically, how much capital does someone need to actually like start this kind of lifestyle, or like before this lifestyle makes sense?
Look, it depends what is going to be your country you said like you would love to live at. So if you're aiming at like Dubai or Abu Dhabi, it's going to be expensive to run that lifestyle. If we're aiming at some country in Latin America or Southeast Asia, it's going to be fine. Like I don't know, Costa Rica is great. You can live a decent lifestyle in Costa Rica. You can, Paraguay is cheap, obviously. Oh, it's not a big, I mean, like a top country, like from the global perspective, it's not a capital like Asuncion comparing to New York, right? But it's a really cheap lifestyle if you don't need big kind of like Ocean Drive in Miami and those big parties, like huge ones. You're fine. Buenos Aires is getting expensive, but it's nice to live at. So it's gonna really depend from perspective of paperwork. It's not that like expensive, honestly. So it's more about like being sure what are your executional steps, what you want to do. And I would say it doesn't make sense to execute paperwork in Dubai if you don't want to live in Dubai. Right? So, like, okay, am I going to do a residence permit in Dubai via freelance visa or something if I don't want to live there? I don't know. Depends on if you can see it as a benefit. The same is like, are you going to execute residency permits in, I don't know, El Salvador if you don't want to live in El Salvador, to give you exact opposite to Dubai? Probably not, because like to maintain that residency is going to cost you money. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you to travel there. So like I said, step number one should be, okay, if it's a plan B, just select from plan B countries. There are a couple of them, not many. And you already know you are not going to be living there. It's just a plan B in case of something goes wrong. Or, okay, you have a country that you want to live in and then execute it, for example, parallelly in that country, like the permit to be able, I don't know, you get NIA in Spain, you get an ID card in Spain, and you know, I'm going to be in Spain 3 months a year, not past taxes, to be okay, but I want to live in Spain. Okay, so you execute that. Plus, for example, you execute Paraguay and you say, it's my plan B. If something goes wrong, I know I got to fall back. So you can do this. Or, so combining probably the place where you want to live plus as a plan B, if something goes wrong, is kind of sweet spot.
So I don't know if we can like just settle on some kind of number. So for example, if I have, let's say like 100,000 in capital, then possibly like Paraguay makes sense in general, or like Dubai makes sense in general, depending on like whoever prefers what.
Yeah. Look, like from paperwork perspective, you are in like thousands of dollars to pull it off. So it really depends, and depends also what you need to set up, and if it includes, I don't know, complicated structures, or if it's something really like a basic paperwork, or that can vary. But still, we are like, let's say up to $5,000. You can set up everything you need to, and then later on it depends like what country you're living at. But if you're going to be, I don't know, in Asuncion, for example, it's going to be cheap lifestyle. You can get around like with $1,500 a month, like no problem. So that's like, if you got a 100k, it's a lot of money. So you don't have to spend them. I would say you can invest them into making other money, whatever it is, like that's a totally different topic. But your monthly spending in Latin America will be pretty low. Bolivia is also cheap, like really cheap in many places. In Bolivia, it's even cheaper than in Paraguay. So you can select like living cheap, and if you like it. There are some cities in Brazil that are nice to live at, and they are comfortable and they are not dangerous. That's another option. Or you take it another route and you said, okay, I'm going to Dubai. There, you're probably not gonna make it with 1,500 a month. There, you're gonna need like, I would say 7, 8, maybe 10k a month just to make it happen. And that will depend also like on your financial ability, what you can pay for, and also probably what is your approach to life. Because like I mentioned, who loves Dubai hates Paraguay, and who loves, I would say, Latin America in general hates Dubai. So these two worlds are totally opposite, and one loves total luxury and another one loves like more freedom. Because problem with UAE is it's a totally surveillance system. Like you cannot do anything without surveillance. Like you drive a car, it's surveilled. Okay, there was the car, there was a license plate, here's the ticket, it goes online, you just pay it. You were crossing the road on a red light, and so on. So it's not really free, it is safe. And a lot of people are mixing up these two terms. So safety is one thing, and obviously everybody wants to feel safe, but it's not a freedom. So you're safe because everything's being controlled. And I think in many Latin American countries, not all obviously, but in many of them, you don't have the surveillance. It's not existent. And still you got a safety. So you can find cities that are safe, that you can go outside and have a phone in your hand and do whatever you want, like from probably your home country. Plus you have zero surveillance, no at all, zero. So that might be the combination. Obviously, you're not gonna meet so many Ferraris and Porsche. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, but in general, Dubai is not as safe as we think it is, to be honest, because especially with foreigners, the police are not so friendly. I had a friend who went to a conference in Dubai in the past months, and then they almost put her in jail because she was recording in the mall. So it's it was a whole thing that happened there, and to be honest, they were not really nice in handling this. And apparently, there is a law that you cannot record in the Dubai Mall unless you have a permit for that. obviously, like, not knowing the law is it doesn't make you an exception from that, but I don't think that's like the first step is to call the police. The first step is usually like ask the person to stop the recording and delete the video if they have something there, and then yeah. So I don't think it's as safe as we think it is, especially as a lady. To be honest, it's still they are moving towards being more of a respectful kind of like country towards women, but women definitely not equal to men in general in Dubai or in the UAE.
Yeah, you're right. And it's everything like what comes into the play. And like I said, you always need to put a formula on a paper, and these are your requirements, what you want to, and you need to tick the boxes, what you can fulfill. And that formula needs to work. And if it's not working, then probably it's not a country for you. I always do some kind of like a checklist. And if I go to a new country, I want to certain things in every country that are being fulfilled. And if not, probably it's not a country for me. And this is totally subjective. I think you're going to have totally different needs than I have, but the approach is the same. In Latin America, the good thing, generally, what I like is that the culture is similar to Europe. In many countries, they were conquered by Spaniards, and the like European culture is strong, especially southern corn, like Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay. A lot of European ancestors are in those countries, so it kind of feels normal. Also, another thing is like religion kind of plays a big game, and like I don't want to generalize because that would be unfair, but a lot of countries with a strong religions, compared to atheism, that you are not religious at all, are taking care of women in a better way. So yeah, women are being more respected, and like everybody's like more human oriented, I would say, like yeah, nice, being nice and being more gracious. So that I was it is visible from at least experiences I have. So the big difference is not happening in those terms. So yeah, you're in Latin America, maybe not working with everything 100%, but mentally and culturally, it's really really similar to Europeans.
Mhm. So if someone wants to start today, for example, I want to move to Paraguay tomorrow, what are the first like three concrete steps that I need to take?
First thing is like being sure about what you're doing, and that is the first step. That you want it, like I like you know what you want, that it's not about like kind of plastic cards. It's not about, hey, cool, I got a two plastic cards. No, it's about like, okay, do I want to have this? And second step, understanding it's more about structure. This is like what oftentimes is being lost in a translation, is the structure. Because again, it's not about like I got an ID card 1 and ID card 2, because okay, fine, but what else? It's more about, okay, if I do step number 1 as a having the ability to live in another country, perfect. So what can I do next? So probably you want to be, I will probably set up a banking just to be sure if something goes wrong, I have a fallback. Okay, banking costs 0, so there are no costs for me, and I do that. And for example, another layer of structure. What about the tax residency? Can it apply to me or not? And if yes, how? In what conditions? What I have to do for it? Or no, because for example, you are stuck in Hungary and it's not possible, which is also possibility. Next, okay, do I use offshore banking? Because offshore banking might give you a more variability and not relying just on, let's say, Hungarian banking, okay, or European Union banking that is under strict restrictions, like everybody knows what you do in reporting, CRS, and reporting between interbanking, everything. Next step. Okay, how am I gonna work? So, and am I entrepreneur? What I'm going to be doing? Am I going to have an entity, for example, that is based in US, as one of the examples, and invoicing from that entity to Europe, because that might also help you in making it simpler in your life, and not using a Hungarian entity, for example. Next step: how am I going to protect my assets? Okay, do I have so many assets that I need to protect them, or do I need to have my estate planning ready? So inheritance, So when the time comes, do my children receive what they should receive, or in the way I want them to receive it? So for like how to plan or estate planning. So there might be a next layer. So this would be the step number 2 for everyone, to think about, okay, is it for me just a trip to, I don't know, Paraguay for 2 cards, or is it for me as a building structure for future to come? And a third step, I would say, would be, if I'm clear about that I want to change it, so then execution, and being sure that all those steps people are executing are 100% legit. In this scenario, it is really important. It can be with shortcuts. They are even legal shortcuts sometimes, but it needs to be 100% legit, because you mentioned something in Dubai and you said, hey, you don't know the law, and it's your problem that you don't know the law. And this is exactly everywhere the same. And if you do something like illegally and you obtain documents in an illegal way, okay, you are going to get the troubles. So obviously, these challenges exist everywhere. So you got a good players, you got a bad players, you got a people that they are trying to sell you something cheaper and faster. Obviously, it depends how legal it is versus how illegal it is. So double checking everything. You know it from Bitcoin. Don't trust, verify. So again, I would apply the same everything with the paperwork. Don't trust, verify, because that will save you, at the end of the day, it will save you a lot of energy. And don't trust, just verify if it's true.
But how do you do that? Like, how do I do that in a country in Latin America when I don't speak, for example, Spanish? Like, how do I verify that it's like a good source?
Yeah, look, you got a multiple options. Of course, if you don't speak the language, but for example, you find some third party that might help you with that, I would want to have as many, again, ticking the boxes as possible. So for example, one of those would be, okay, if I communicate with somebody, do they understand really details, like even like tiniest, I don't know, you can AI really complicated questions, and oftentimes AI answering in a wrong way. So so you can test your counterparty how much they understand the process. Second thing is, like, if everything goes, oh, good point is that everyone who's the attorney in Latin America needs to be registered on a highest supreme court. So everybody has a own attorney number. It needs to be officially issued. So first thing is that if you are attorney, you're probably not gonna go and fall into illegal ways to do things. Second thing is that those people who are attorneys have more to lose than to gain, because like if you screw the counterparty, you're screwed. You can lose the license, you can lose the job as an attorney. So you got more to lose than to obtain. So I'm not saying that it can 100% save everything, but it's a kind of like a good indice to say, it might be fine. So later on you can sign a contract. It's also possible. You can come up with references, so you get testimonials from other people that they are willing, obviously, to disclose it, but you want to hear, okay, Was there a problem? Was it good? So you get a lot of feedbacks from dozens of people and saying, yeah, no problem, totally legit. So there are multiple, I would say, like a checklist that you wanna go through, and this is the best what you can do. But as always, try to verify as many things as possible.
Okay, and how can like Hackinglives actually like help us in this process? So can I like reach out to you and then you're gonna help me with the whole process, or?
Yeah, we do this types of services, and also, like I mentioned previously, trying to put everything into that structure. So understanding, I would say it's not about Paraguay, because that's just one piece of many steps to make in the future. So we are trying. What we are doing is that we'll go one on one with everyone. We're trying to understand the needs, because not every time it makes sense. Not There is no one solution for everyone. That's a first thing. It's important to understand those personal distinctions, and sometimes you need different solution than other person. So saying honestly, look, yeah, it might have a sense if, or yeah, for you it makes a sense, but it needs also step two to use a tax benefit. Or you got an entrepreneur who's living somewhere and like, okay, but in your case it needs to be also another entity set up in another jurisdiction to use it as a company entity, and then using a tax benefit in that country to optimize it, for example, from tax perspective. So yes, the structure is more important than two cards. Yeah, it's oftentimes a first step, because that gives you the first like immediate freedom, and later on building on top of it and on top of it. And yeah, so we are also doing a lot of podcasts about these topics. We got a lot of blog posts about these topics. I can, for example, share with your audience. We got a like Plan B article, and that is describing everything from residencies, citizenships, tax residencies, banking options, and Bitcoin, and OPSEC, what is the security, how to play it, what is the home, is it smart to have owning a home or renting a rent, a lot of things like about how to think within these topics.
Mhm. I would love that actually, to be honest. Like, if you could send me the links, we will like put them in the show notes, and then whoever is listening to the episode, they can just check it out and then um, decide possibly what is like the first couple of steps that they want to take, or which countries are the ones that are appealing to them. So, is there anything that we didn't talk about today that you think would be important for our listeners to hear about?
I would just say that it can sound messy in the beginning. And yeah, I can say from my experience, I've been learning this or testing those different hacks like for 20 years. So it cannot happen overnight, and to feel that everything's totally clear, because there is also a lot of jargon in this industry. So it can also sound messy. Why one is a residency and another is also residency, but this is tax residency, this is not tax residency. What is the difference between the residency and residency? So I understand it can be pretty complicated in the beginning, but it's more about like, yeah, we're trying to help people to navigate them into that area, and oftentimes trying to help them, okay, look, this might be a better option in your case. Like a lot of people, for example, come to us and say, I need a citizenship, and it's not necessarily bad, not at all, but they oftentimes mean residence but call it citizenship.
Oh, okay.
So don't worry with that. It's just a wording. With a couple of questions, we get to the point, like what you're thinking about. And I know it sounds confusing. All those documents sounds confusing. So yeah, we can look into that in general. And yeah, we love what we're doing, so we are still building more and more content about these topics. And when we find some hacks, so yeah, we are trying to drop them in our blog posts, where we're helping people to orientate themselves in that. Now, lately we were disclosing, for example, how different criminal record extracts looks from different countries. So how criminal record looks in Canada, in the United States, in Germany, in, I don't know, Slovakia, in Italy, in Spain, France. So people can go in the blog, and if somebody like, oh, this document I know because this is the document from their home country. So yeah, trying to getting more into those details and so on.
Well, thank you so much, Jan, for the conversation today. I really enjoyed exploring this topic, and I think we just took a step closer to becoming a little bit more sovereign, or like becoming self-sovereign via this conversation. I am thinking a lot about like moving out of Hungary again. I just moved back recently, but now they passed different crypto laws that not so beneficial for Hungarians in general. So I'm thinking of moving again as well. So if I'm ready to make that step, I think I'm gonna reach out to you, and then we can explore. And maybe if you are open to that, I would love to actually like record the whole process, like how these kind of like conversations go down, and then what are like the exact things that you consider, for example, when it comes to these decisions.
We can. It's up to you, because like we cannot disclose anything.
Oh yeah,
If it's your decision, then it's your decision. Like about clients, we cannot disclose any information. So it's your sole decision if you want to record the process, or what parts you want to. Because I would suggest like not everything you want to put online, like from your like personal data and so on. But yeah, it is possible, it is doable. There are options, and I'm always saying, look, what is important, you don't have to use contingency plan, maybe never. But what is really important is to have optionality, like to have option to execute something, and tomorrow morning I know I got everything set up, so that optionality not stucking in one place. And I would love to in that moment have something, but I don't have it, is like giving you kind of quiet sleep. So always having a, like backup plan. And if you used your backup plan, then it's time to build another backup plan, because the backup plan already has been used. So always be like one step forward. If you're one step ahead, so you're always cool.